Welcome you to the Birth New Earth podcast, where it's our mission to remind humanity that we all have the ability to birth a new earth. Like we can literally come together, we can, in a very conscious manner, like roll up our sleeves and say, okay, what kind of world do we really want to live in? Because we see all these limiting systems. We want to transcend them. We want to create new systems, and you are so deeply schooled in the one system that I think that really keeps us down the most for the longest amount of time, which is essentially religion, right? Religion has come in and it has separated us. It has made us war for centuries. And I remember when I first found out about the Baha'i faith and what it was about, which was the unification of all of the beautiful messaging from all of the world's religions. I was like, I want to find me like some of the Baha'i folks. And that's where I got to meet you, like one of my most loved people. So it is an honor to be able to introduce you. I'm going to read your bio, it's sparkling as you are. Gouya Zamani is a fashion designer with over 35 years of expertise in footwear, handbags, fine jewelry, an entrepreneur and a creative visionary. You see beauty, and I love this so much about you, as both an artistic pursuit and a spiritual essence. And that's what really fuels your work. Like you're one of those people that can see the beauty like in all. And we have to talk more about that because we all need that. You've collaborated with renowned brands. You've built your own ventures. You split your time between New York and California. California, there goes my Staten Island accent, with your husband and your two daughters who are both in university. You guys are dedicating your lives essentially to impact, to service. You call yourself a spiritual being, which I know we all need to do that. So we all have to talk about that as well. And you're really embracing your spiritual path. You recognize that there is a profound connection between the physical and the spiritual realms. And how do we bring that together? How do we weave this perspective, which is the way that you're living, into both an artistic expression, which is how you create, and into your own personal evolution. So beyond your design, you have your greatest joy in teaching and sharing. And this is how I met you, the Baha'i faith, as a co-founder of Baha'i-teachings.org, which I just read your most beautiful article that I didn't even know that you wrote it until the end. I was so impressed. You're helping to cultivate a global platform for exploring transformative principles of the Baha'i. So your highest aspiration is to continue growing spiritually and fulfilling the meaningful work that you are called to do here in this lifetime, which you're so doing. So thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Alana. You call it work. I don't know if I would call it work. I just call it being. Like
Yes.
when you use the word work, like it's work, but it's an understanding and aligning your actions to that higher understanding of that consciousness, of that truth, of that reality. Yesterday I was at a funeral and I was just sitting there thinking about, life, being born. We're in the womb. We're growing our arms, our legs, it's tight in there. We don't really need it too much in that dark space, but God forbid if we're born without those limbs that we need. And this world is like the schooling that we need to grow our spiritual limbs so that when we pass on, and we all do, we pass on, we die in this world and born into another world. That's a mystery. We need those limbs. So just understanding that, then why would that it should be everything that we're spending, all our time doing, yet there's so many distractions. And we get pulled away from the essence of who we are and what we're here to do, that schooling that we need.
Yeah.
So it's imperative for all of us. I mean, time is ticking to live our lives aligned with, a spiritual reality. But I know religion has a bad rap. People don't like religion. They look at what's going on in the world, and it's true. A lot of the wars are, over religion.
Yes. Yes.
But if we think if we think of God, I have a totally different, radically different way, thank God, to the Baha'i teachings, but I don't look at it that way. I think about, all the religions of the world. Okay, backtrack. If there's only one God, and all these religions have come from that same God, and God, let's say you have a perfect parent and you multiply it by 1 billion times, you have this loving, loving, loving parent. Doesn't want to leave us alone. It's not our enemy. He's not there to tell us what to do or control us or take away our free will, but simply out of love, give us teachings through a messenger, through a manifestation of God every 1,000 years. And why not listen to that? Why not use that? Why not investigate? I think it really deserves an investigation of that truth, of that reality. And if we shut the door on that, we're left to ourselves. And we can see when we're totally detached from the spiritual, the love, all those principles that come from God or God's teachings through the ages, it becomes a very dark place. I mean, we can even conduct a personal, like, little study. Try for a few weeks to do some sort of meditation, say some prayers, do service, be one with nature, and then stop and
Right.
see what makes you feel better.
Yes, that's so good. And anyone can do that.
Anyone can do that,
Anyone can do that.
but
That's
it
such good
requires
advice.
some of self-evaluation. And if
Right.
we're not bringing ourselves to account each day, we're just wasting our days.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean, no one should judge us. In reality, it's not about being part of this or not being part of that. It's about internal joy, peace, and harmony and
Right.
alignment with what really satisfies you as a human being.
100%. And
And
it does
doesn't
take
that,
going within. It takes, and that's what I think most people don't want to do.
yeah, and doesn't that aren't you important enough? Isn't your joy, isn't your peace important enough? But it requires just owning it and realizing it and always being not shutting the door to anything, always investigating, always yearning to know and understand and evaluate. And if we're not doing that, boy, I have two girls. We have these conversations all the time. There's a lot of disappointments, friends behave this way, this happens, that happens. And it's all every moment of every day. I think it's so cool. We can't miss it
Yeah.
because it's there to teach us something. Like literally every second is there for us individually. It's unique to each person to teach us something. And if we're not aware, if we're sleepwalking through our life, and we're distracted, we're going to miss it. And it's awesome and it's amazing and it helps us level up. Who
That is,
doesn't level
it's
up?
so like that kind of view, I feel like is exactly what the entire world is missing.
There's
Like,
a lot of distractions,
yeah, like to be
judgment.
just
I love
watch.
all people and respect, everyone. And that's the reality is no judgment. Everyone is on their own path.
Right. Right.
And the minute we get out of our path trying to judge someone or control someone else's path, we're in the wrong, right?
Right.
But wouldn't that be great? Yeah. If
Yes,
everyone
yes.
was
If we could all just step back and experience life as kind of like the impersonal observer and just know it's always for our greatest good. Like whenever there's a challenge, it's for our greatest good. And we go right to judging ourselves so often, and then we can't get the learning from it. And for me, I have been blessed to be able to learn from you so much of an understanding of how the Baha'i faith has beautifully melded together the core messaging of so many religions, which it's so clear, so obvious that it's all come from the same place, right? And it's because we've all come from the same place, right? And we're all going back to the same place. So for the purposes of the viewers that aren't yet familiar with the core meaning of the Baha'i faith, could you go into that? Because I feel like when you speak about that, you are bringing forth a future state of being into the now that we all really could embrace. And that is so healing.
Yeah, I mean, the Baha'i faith started in 1844 in Persia, and there's a lot I could share. We could be here all afternoon and
Yeah,
today.
we'll start from that year, right?
But it is the teachings of the Baha'i faith are like the culmination. It's the culmination of all religions. So Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, came to explain to us that all religions come from one God. And if there's only one God, then all the religions are essentially one, and all people, regardless of their creed, nationality, gender, they're all one. They're all one. So this oneness is paramount in the Baha'i faith. And so God being that perfect parent doesn't leave us alone. So every 1,000 or so years, the religion gets updated. It doesn't mean the previous religion was not real or, the truth didn't exist in that religion. It just gets updated. So what Baha'u'llah and the Baha'i faith, we believe is the religion that God has sent for all of humanity
Mm,
to help us
right,
live
right.
in the day and age in which we live. And essentially, the social teachings change as they should,
Mm,
religion to religion, because socially we're evolving.
right.
And the next manifestation of God will be giving more current, more recent, applicable teachings and truths for the day and age in which that prophet will come in the future. So it is this continuum
Mm,
flow from God or what? Because God has his finger on the pulse of what humanity needs. So we are getting through the Baha'i faith what the world needs now to live in the day and age in which we live, right? So that there's this understanding or this principle or teaching from the Baha'i faith that all religions, all people are one. The unity in diversity is the beauty. If you have a garden and all the flowers are the same, it's pretty, but how much more beautiful when there's diversity, right? So,
right.
and learning to live. And again, we're watching the news this past week where like you can't implement unity into laws and ordinances of a country. It has to be organic from the heart,
Yes.
right? And that unless that transformation happens on a spiritual level, you can't make people hire this person or love this person. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
So this equality, this understanding of oneness, all being the children of one God, working together to serve each other is the only way. And this is not, this is a divine teaching. If you put human beings together, we have this lower nature, this material nature that we want to, up the other person. The competition comes in and the ego takes over. So God has come knowing God's created us. We do have an ego and it does serve us to help us survive. But we have to the dragon needs to be controlled.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Baha'u'llah's teachings are to, control your dragon and and I love the analogy of the rider being your soul, the horse
Mm,
being the body.
mm. I love that. That
The
is
horse
so
needs a
powerful.
rider, and that rider, if it's in control, beautiful things can happen, right? But if that horse doesn't have a rider and it's wild, it's not going to be on a path to progress. It's going to be all over the place. So this understanding, I mean, all the gurus talk about this. There's so many camps that are talking about, being in control of oneself
Right. Right.
and being spiritually aligned. But Baha'u'llah brings it home that we are spiritual beings having this physical experience. We're not staying here. We need that spiritual evolution and the spiritual limbs to move on because the soul doesn't die. So,
Right.
wow, if it doesn't die, and I'm spending all my time on the part of me that's going to die, isn't that a waste of my time?
Yes. Yes. Being attached just to the temporary outside objects that
Exactly. You have to leave this
uh,
behind. I mean,
yeah.
not that we shouldn't take care of ourselves and,
Yeah.
you know, but that's definitely something that we should do. And it's respecting the soul to take care of the body and not abuse it. But also, we have to take care of the soul. But it's so hard because we don't see it.
Right,
We,
right.
we have like
We're
a little bit
very like material
of,
focused.
yeah,
Right.
we're just stuck with what we see. I
Yes.
need to see it. Prove
Yes.
it to me. I have to see
Right.
it. Well,
Right.
but God's like, you are noble. Dig a little deeper. You have
Right.
to get into the consciousness and the
Right.
mystery and the mysticism of God and the universe and spiritual reality. You have to level up. So, but human beings were a little lazy. We like to just sit and have, especially in the day and age we live. Give me a
Right.
pill for that.
Right.
Pill
Exactly.
for that.
Exactly.
No
And I
shortcuts.
and that's where the work comes in, because then underneath that lens it feels like work, but in actuality it is the most meaningful, like the trip inside, right, which feels like it could be the longest one ever, is actually the shortest one and the most meaningful one you'll ever take. But because it feels like too much work for people, they'll never really realize that the thing that they're looking for has always been within them at all times. And it's this kind of a teaching that I love so much about your faith, because it's core at you know making everyone understand that you are the God within. You are God consciousness in this 3D reality, having this temporary human experience. And for me, growing up Jewish, we really weren't taught that. And I feel like a lot of folks run from a traditional religion because they're taught that God is really separate from them. God is like on the outside. God is a punishing God. You have to do certain things in order, for
The
God
old
to,
man with the beard. Yeah.
yeah, that whole thing. And
Man-made. These are man-made things.
yeah, and all of these man-made things that, like, you have to go to this building to feel God. You need to live in this country to feel God. You have to pay this money, to this, group of people. And if those people don't agree with you, then we don't even recognize them, and like I was raised that way and always felt like it was wrong and never understood why, like, it doesn't jive with me, until like many years later. I love to tell this story. Like, I was going through like some kind of like, either it's like an awakening or a transformation or a nervous breakdown, like one of those things, and I was like pulling weeds in my lawn, like just listening to like the Hopi prophecy. And, I forgot, was it Lee Brown? Was that his name? And he was talking about, there was one group that would be able to unify the world and bring us where we need to go from like an evolutionary standpoint, and it is the Baha'i. And I was like, who are they? Where do I find them? Like, can I just call them? Like, because they are the ones that are teaching through a faith that God is already one with you. Your soul is God, and that you're perfect as you are. And when you wake up in the morning and you cultivate that, and you recognize that you're now living what some would call it like a God realized life, and whatever distractions get you away from that are only just there, that you've manifested to bring you back to it, which is kind of the beauty of like the unfolding of what that learning is like, which is amazing. But I bring this up because, in the end, that was like the original teachings of Christ. I found out, like, this set me on like a whole research. I researched for years that was the original teaching of, like Krishna, Buddha, Muhammad, like all the leaders, the greats that are told, they're different people for different religions, but in the end, they're teaching what you guys are teaching in their, kind of like, when you distill it down before it kind of got twisted, I think. And so how did it come about that it could come through a faith where you're really speaking truth here, without separating people and making it about God being on the outside? Like, how does that work in a faith? That's what blows me away about Baha'i.
Yeah, I mean, one of the wonderful things, and I think you and I have spoke about this, that I love, and again, the Baha'i faith is not, I mean, it's a group of people that have testified their faith to Baha'u'llah and the teachings, but Baha'u'llah came for the world. He came
Hmm.
for the Jewish people, the Christians, the Muslims, everybody, the Buddhists. So this is what the manifestations of the past, they alluded to the coming of Baha'u'llah.
Hmm.
So, but one of the wonderful things coming back to this that I personally love about the Baha'i faith, and again, the oneness, the unity being, paramount in the teachings of Baha'u'llah, is that we don't have a priest or a clergy or a rabbi. So in the past, human beings were illiterate. They couldn't read, they couldn't understand. They needed a broker or a middleman between them and God.
Hmm.
So a preacher, a rabbi, a mullah would stand and tell his congregation what to believe. So Baha'u'llah said, this religion will do away with that. Human beings are now evolved. They can read, they can write, they can ask questions. Actually, the responsibility of investigating is on the individual.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
They're going to do the work. They have to understand.
Yes.
So in the past, we know this, right? The clergies, the rabbis, the whoever, the leaders, the learned ones, they interpreted the truth to what they wanted the truth to be, right? So there's one Jesus, there's many, many versions of Christianity, right? And then there's, disunity among the different versions of Christianity. So Baha'u'llah did away with that. Each person bears the responsibility of investigating truth and understanding and researching and questioning. One of the beautiful teachings of the Baha'i faith is to question everything. Unless you question, you cannot have faith, right? So this responsibility of knowing and owning your understanding of who you are, your soul, God, how you connect to God. And then Baha'u'llah goes into, there's over 10,000 tablets for the individual to go and find out about commerce and economy, find out about health and wellness, find out about, how to raise children and the unity of the family and the role of the individual in the community and governments and so on and so forth, so many things. So I love this reality because it doesn't allow one person to go, no, everybody come over here. This is what it means.
Right.
I'm going to tell you, sit down. I'm going to tell you what to believe.
Right.
So this notion of blindly believing in something or guilting someone to believe, that is the thing of the past. Everything is made anew with when there's a new prophet or manifestation or a representative. Well, these manifestations of God are part human, part God.
Right.
So they come with this physical sameness like us so that we can understand God.
Right. Right.
Can't understand God if God's not a human being. It's like a different reality. But these prophets, and we need them, these messengers, the key ones, Buddha, Krishna, Zoroaster, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, we needed them in the past. And they came really for regions of the world. But here we have Baha'u'llah coming to unify all of humanity,
Right.
all of humanity. And now God says this is the time. We are able, but we have to, control the dragon, the ego.
Right.
That's,
Right.
takes us to places of darkness and disunity and war and killing and dishonesty. When we don't have a mothership, let's face, it's something that human beings need to face. When we don't have a mothership, when we don't have a compass, we can do horrific things.
Yeah. That's what we're
Worse than
seeing.
a beast, right?
Yeah.
Worse than any beast would ever do.
Yeah. We're at a tipping point now because it just feels like, it's almost like a critical mass where you have enough people who seem to be really unhappy with the way things are, right? It does feel that way. And yet those are the same people that do want a new way of being, but do not know how to wrap their arms around it, where to even begin, because it seems as though there is an interest in understanding something else And that's why people are like leaving a religion, and in search of something else, but they don't know where to begin. For everyone, that kind of feels like they're in their own individual tipping point, what can they do first?
Hmm. I think, this idea of just being quiet
Mhm.
and going inward. I mean, you touched on this earlier. What we need is not out there.
Right.
What we have is not out there. It's right here. So this quieting of the mind, going inward, reading, contemplating, asking questions, people journal. I mean, there's so many ways of finding that truth. But I think, I mean, Jesus said this, ask and ye shall receive. I believe that wholeheartedly. If you ask with a pure intention, all things are open to you on a mystical
Yeah.
level. So if we, each one of us have a sincere desire to know and understand the universe, God, ourselves, the doors, I mean, the miracles happen.
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. People don't realize, and I love that you brought it up, that if you ask, you do receive, because now you're open. And instead of being kind of like heads down, feeling like,
Both.
you're like a victim and, it's everyone else's fault, instead of, and that's where, we can kind of probably even segue into, kind of like the forces that are outside of us that keep us in that low vibration, because they don't want us to know what we're talking about.
Right. Right.
They don't want us to understand that we are truly powerful manifestors of our reality, because it's only
Love
in,
that.
and that's why, like, I love you, because we can so easily shift the entire world. Like we can easily catapult ourselves into this way of being that we all are worthy of, because we all are it. Like we all already have it inside of us. And so if we're able to make that bigger, right? I feel like that is us starting to have that relationship with the universe, right? Starting to say, okay, there's the news that's making me really upset. I'm going
Mhm.
to shut it off instead of trying to have anger and then waste my energy, building consensus amongst my neighbors so that we all hate the same people. I am going to, instead start to go within and know that there is that part of me that can have conversation with the universe, which is God. And I can wake that part of me up inside and ask myself, what does it feel like if I live that way? And all of a sudden, like we start to feel love.
Mm.
Like we start to feel bliss. Like when we allow ourselves to, we can feel gratitude. Like we can feel joy having not even done anything or gone anywhere. And I know it's only in that emotion can we then be a vibrational match to those things that we want to create. And that's where the opening begins. Like that's how we go through like kind of like that hallway together, and we join hands, but we have to have like this kind of realization that there are outside forces that are keeping us from doing that. Like my belief is, that's why they killed Jesus, because Jesus was a mystic who could do that and was there, to teach us this. Because when you live this way, you're in like a state of like mind body well-being. Like you can live for way longer. You don't have to like rely on like some kind of terrible sick care system, because you're living in a state of joy. You don't have to buy as many things, because you're feeling it on the inside, and you're living your purpose now because you're knowing your truth. You're creating, you're connecting for that way. And I think that's where we got lost is just forgetting that part of us, which I feel like is what you all have already known.
Yeah, I mean, if we only knew the light that shines on us and how lucky and blessed and fortunate we are to be alive, to have this freedom, where, but owning that freedom and not enslaving ourselves.
Right.
like this understanding of like I'm so free. I can go out and do something beautiful that's, totally selfless for somebody. And then I'm attracting in turn so many other blessings. Like there's this, we have no idea, like the frequency of love and kindness and unity. And I mean, when we do those things, we're like, we become a magnet. We
Yes.
are a magnet of
Yes.
that love, that energy, that beauty.
Yes.
So, I mean, like I said, we can do our own little study with ourselves. What makes me feel more connected to God? For me, what makes me more connected to Baha'u'llah and to my creator, God? Well, for me, it's, I fast for 19 days from sunrise to sunset every year. I pray every day. I meditate. I read the writings. I try to do service, to my family, my community, maybe someone I don't even know. But these things, I mean, they create so much spirituality and connectedness. And, everyone is, can find ways to serve and love.
Yes.
And it could be something so small. Even
Right.
it doesn't have to
Right.
be something small. It could just be walking down the street and just sending a heart message to someone. You're not even
Yeah.
communicating. But these things cultivate that, spirituality that we all are so hungry for,
Yeah, it's so true.
pray
And
for.
it's like just making that part of you bigger. It's like whenever you get out of it, and I think like when you start to like for me, it's like the point of me meditating is just sitting in a state of love that I can feel it, right? And I feel like you do the same thing. Only because then when you get out of it, like when something pulls you out of it, you can recognize it faster, as opposed to kind of like not really noticing it, but being triggered for like a couple days. Now
Right.
you can get back to it faster, which is
Right. And we're
great.
human, that happens, right?
Yeah.
I think also I think a lot of people think of religion and God like they're gonna, oh God, um I have to do this and I have to,
Right.
judge. In reality, my humble opinion, that's where the freedom lies. I think we feel the most free, the most liberated when we believe that I am powerful. I don't need all these other things. I don't need a club. I don't need someone to validate me.
Right.
God has made me. I'm powerful. I'm capable. I should investigate everything for myself and not take everything that the media or, you know, movies or whatever out there, even friends, family are telling me to do.
Right.
My freedom,
Right.
if someone were to ask me, when do you feel the most free? It's when I'm the most aligned
Yes.
with the teachings of God. I mean,
Yes.
the Baha'i faith really grounds me and it's my happy, joyful, peaceful place. The minute I don't do what I want my soul to feel, or like the minute I start getting away from my soul, the minute is that's the moment that I feel totally unaligned. I feel like I didn't brush my teeth.
Right.
If I
Right.
wake up that day and I don't meditate, it's like I didn't, take my didn't take care of myself.
Yeah. I love that. It's like take the soul challenge. Like I feel like we should like invent that.
Yeah,
Like
love it.
see what it's like to like live from the perspective of, these elevated emotions, choosing them purposely, regardless of, the chaos that's happening on the outside, and watch the world as it transforms in front of your eyes. See people show up that are synchronistic, that like are the right people at the right time. Like watch the right opportunities unfold. Watch you get even like a good
Connect the
parking
dots.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then don't. And then get out of it. Then spend like a day not doing that and just see how like dinner doesn't taste as good. You know what I mean? Like everything is
Get triggered, someone will say something
yes.
and you'll, yeah.
Yes. I have chills when we're talking about that because like everyone can do that and everyone is like up for a challenge, people love to experiment. What if we all experimented with what it would be like, to choose what you're talking about, consciously, and see how much more we could manifest in our lives and actually receive the things that we've always wanted that we thought we had to wait for, which could happen in real time, and that's what I love. Your faith also talks about that. They talk about quantum mechanics, and this is like from the 1800s,
Right?
and it's wild that,
Everything is connected.
yeah, it's
Everything.
all connected because it's been around for that long. And I remember, I think it was in Paris talks, where the writing was, can you look at humanity with the eye that's in the middle of your head? And I'm like, wow, he's talking about third eye consciousness, and that is the eye of not having judgment.
Mm.
Can you go around like that and have, live in that place of empathy? And I think that that's where I know, like, we talked about it with religion, but that's kind of where I think it all came from, the judgment piece, that if you're not doing these things, then, you'll be judged or punished. And then media reinforces, and that, like, the government reinforces, like, it's all like this systematic programming that reinforces, but yet you guys already knew from the get-go that, there was this other way, this other way of being.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a teaching of God, right? That
Yeah.
there's that we have to this if this is school, this life, it shouldn't be wasted. We have to, explore, investigate, follow the teachings of God. It's the manual. God's like, here's a manual, and you're like, nah, I'm good. I don't need the
Right.
manual.
I'm gonna go
And
back.
God's like, wait, but
Yeah.
I made you, and I'm giving
Yeah.
you the teaching for the day and age in which I made you.
Right.
And human beings are like, no, I'm good. I'm going to do it my way. And talk about dissing the creator.
Right. Right.
So, so of course it's not going to work out. Of course we're going to, be unhappy if we're
Yeah.
doing things differently. And it truly, this life is so quick.
Yes.
Can't let a moment go by, a day go by with ignoring that part of ourselves,
Right.
that need.
Right.
And here's the thing. I mean, we are seeing this and hearing this all over the place. Ayahuasca, all these psychedelics, these things. There's no shortcut to spirituality. Even
Hmm.
if you take the psychedelic or LSD, whatever, and you have the high, what happens when you're off the high? You're back to where you are.
Right. It's so true.
So there's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts to building muscle. There's no shortcuts to losing weight. There's no shortcuts. As it is above is below. There's
Right.
no shortcuts to spirituality. It requires just, the daily work and understanding and questioning and loving and doing and feeling and that oneness and that, and the Baha'i teachings are so, it makes so much sense. None of that dogma and superstition and things that didn't make sense and it was cultural or was, this Baha'u'llah came to make everything new. And the new understanding of God and spirituality has to make sense. Science and religion should agree. People
Right.
should have all people should be at the table and we should get along with everyone. Why? Why? Why should we get along with everyone? Because peace is not only achievable, but Baha'u'llah says inevitable.
Hmm.
And the genesis of everything is love. So, of course, we should get along. Of course, we should respect and honor each other.
Yes.
Because you know what that means? That means you've quieted down the ego that wants to fight and wants to be ahead and wants to compete. So, the more the dragon is at bay, the happier and the more peaceful the world will be. And the only way to do that is to not quiet the dragon per se, maybe, but to evolve the soul, give the
Yeah.
soul the mic
Yes. And
and the
that
power and the control.
it's so beautifully said. And, you know, since we all have that inside of us on this earth, if we can communicate that to people that are told that they can't feel that unless they kill for it.
Oh,
They can't feel that unless they're on a certain piece of land. They won't be accepted. They won't be loved. They won't have resources because there isn't, quote, enough. Even though there is enough, we are in a very abundant earth. We're just told that there's not enough. I know that people would start to question why they've been fighting for generations and centuries if they're still not feeling any of those things that we just told you about.
right.
And that's what I feel like part of, my mission is. And that's why I always feel like we're so aligned, because vibrationally, if we can even just send that feeling of love and compassion to those folks on the other side of the world that are told these things, on an individual, like very individualized basis, we all have to have this transformation that you're talking about, because it is like you and God. Right. And every single person here, even in our own country, has to start saying no when we want to really say no, instead of saying yes to killing, and instead of saying yes to the old way of being. We all have to start saying no. And I think the shift can come from the ground up.
Yeah. I love what you just said. It was like a little aha moment, like that manifesting. We're hearing like a lot of that. Manifesting is prayer.
Yeah.
Sending that love and energy into the other side of the world, the children
Yes.
that are suffering everywhere. That is prayer. That
Yes.
frequency of love that's mystical, that's divine, that's prayer. And that is, we have no idea. I mean, you've heard the studies that they've done, like water molecules change,
Right.
the blood
Yeah.
in our body changes when
Yes.
we pray.
Everything.
I mean, we don't even know how powerful these prayer and that frequency is. But, you and I talk about, what's going on in the world, and, you know, we cannot I think life is too short and it's too big of a responsibility to give anything to someone else to tell for the
Right.
power to have someone
Right.
else tell us something.
Right.
We have to search for truth. And when you're aligned,
Yes.
your truth detector is on 24/7. So if someone, the media, whoever wants to tell me something, I always check. I'm like, let me just check with my soul.
Yes.
Is that true? I'm not going to believe.
Yes.
I need to pray about it, meditate on it. And I'm not a woo-woo type of person. But I know something happened to me during the pandemic too, that it was,
Mm.
no, that's not true. Even though everyone in my family says, oh no, this is what's going on. I'm like, no, 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 no. So I think if you're aligned and you're in love, I guess love is the key thing.
Yeah.
You carry the light.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
carrying a torch that's in you, that God has given you. So you walk into a dark room, you see there's the window, there's the door, this is the desk, there's a book, because you have that light with you. But if you're not paying attention and you're not carrying the light with you everywhere, I could say, "Hey, look at that door, look at that table, look at this book," and someone will say, "I don't see it, and I don't see any of it." So what I'm trying to say is, we all have the bounty and the privilege and the will, if we use our will, to carry the light.
Oh,
It just
yeah.
We have free will.
Yeah.
No one is better than the other.
Yes.
All are created
That's
by one God, and being a parent, I don't favor one child over another. So the truth is, though, that we all have to use our mental capacity and our free will to choose to be a lover of the light, a carrier of the torch, and a seeker of the truth. And if we're
that's
not doing that, we're going to
yes.
be lost, we're going to be unhappy, we're going to be addicted, we're going to look for other things
Right.
to satisfy this need, and it's all going to fall short, because we listen in, we need love, we need light, we need that yummy feeling of connection to
Mhm.
our creator. And we need our perfect parent, God. When if a person doesn't communicate with their parent, there's always a hole in their heart.
Right.
They didn't have their mother or their father in their life. And it's even a bigger hole when the
Mm.
the biggest parent, the biggest love of my life. If I'm not paying attention to that and I've left. God doesn't leave us, right? We leave. We make the free will to leave. If we will have the biggest hole in our heart, and we will, suffer the consequences. I don't want to suffer.
No, no. You bring up such an important point though, with like being able to recognize, and I know it's a frequency of lies, because it doesn't mesh or match with the frequency of truth and the frequency of love. And that's like the single most important reason why now more than ever we need to learn to cultivate those elevated emotions regardless of what's happening on the outside. We have to learn to go within and cultivate that frequency because for me, and I wonder if it's the same for you, like if I hear a piece of news, right, or someone comes, to tell me how terrible things are, right away it hurts my body, right? I can like feel it in my body. And I right then and there, that to me means it's not true. Like
Yeah, your
that's
body is
it.
a lie detector.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
your
And
body.
that's what I want people to understand because that's where like the theys want to keep you down, right? And when we are down in that low vibrational way of being and we don't question, we just keep going, we're kind of just distracted while, like this like top 1% can go and do whatever it is that they need to be doing. But we are supporting their comfortable way of life in that capacity. And I think that that's what everyone is starting to wake up to. And I think that that's what everyone's really done with, but they didn't really understand it until now. And I think we're starting to see that this is really what's been going on for millennia.
Yeah. Well, one thing that makes a lot of sense to me, though, is that we can't have this awakening unless God is, we're implementing the teachings of God for this day and age.
I agree.
I can't be a good person. Like, I mean, I could be a good person, but say, nah, I don't believe in God. The mysticism and the power and the frequency comes from that divinity,
Yes.
creator of all the universe. If I'm forgetting that I am that, I'm shutting the door to it.
Right.
So the frequency and the love and all that, the miracle of everything beautiful is cannot flow if God's name is missing. Now, I maybe a lot of your viewers are listening and they're like, I don't want anything to do with religion.
Right. Right.
And I don't blame a lot of people. There's a lot
Yeah.
of negativity but I'm saying give religion and God a chance. It's who you are. It's what's made you. Give your perfect parent, God, a chance because that's the only way to understanding yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
And I always say that, if I know someone that's an atheist, like maybe they can agree that there's a force that's greater than them. And they're like, yeah, that's true. There's an energy. There's something out there that is unexplainable, and it beats your heart, it grows our hair, it grows the grass, it's something. And no one can argue that. And why wouldn't you want to align with that and manifest alongside its creation, and that's kind of like the point of this whole game, the school, the reason why we came here. Can we create, underneath like the most challenging circumstances, can we still create? And I know that we can.
Exactly. I think the essence of everything, of course, is love, but also another virtue, humility.
Yeah.
Um, we have to be humble enough to go, I don't know.
Right.
I I don't have all the answers, but I sure want to
Yeah.
learn and understand myself and God and the universe and what I'm supposed to do when, I have calamity or challenges or difficulties. Like those things are sent to us to make us humble, I think. We need to be humble. It really serves us on so many fronts. It helps us like go, oh, I don't know everything. I really need to be a
Right.
seeker.
Right.
If you have an arrogant student in school, they tend not to be good learners.
Mm.
If you have someone that's actually curious and is in love with learning, so there's no end to how much they can learn and grow. So I always have to remind myself that I need to stay humble and I'm a student of life. I don't know everything. Um, I've fallen in love with the Baha'i faith, but am I a perfect Baha'i? I'm trying every day. No one is perfect.
Yeah.
So, and I'm content with that because this is a journey of growth and understanding and learning, and I get off track and I got to pull myself back, and every day is a new day to start fresh and you know find the meaning, find the understanding, and I think challenges and difficulties definitely, when I look at my life, have helped me.
Yes.
So being comfortable is not where spirituality grows. I
Right. Right.
So I think
So well
human beings,
said.
we walk into a room, we want to find a seat to
Yeah.
sit. Life is not about sitting down. You have to be up, working, rolling up your sleeves. Like if you're going to be if you want to be comfortable, you're not going to grow.
Right.
So I always tell my girls that, like, if you're in pain, you're suffering. Not that I want that for them, but you know, there's a quote from the Baha'i writings that says, strange, it's a God saying this, strange is it that I love you, yet I am happy that you have had great difficulties.
Mm.
The
That
more
is
you
so
plow
good.
the dirt, the more fertile the ground becomes, right?
Yes.
This plowing, this is the spiritual plowing for the beautiful plants to grow. And the plowing is like really going through challenges and difficulties and analyzing and learning and growing and falling in love with your power to, you know, overcome the things that come at you, for you to overcome, loss.
Mm.
And that's a beautiful thing. I think we're always like God sending us challenges and difficulties so we wake up to our
Right.
full reality. We're like,
Yeah.
nah,
Yeah. We're like, no, no, I don't want
I
that.
want to be
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't want to have pain. I don't want to have
Yeah.
suffering. And
Yeah.
God's like, but it's good for you.
Yeah. Yes.
And we're
Yes.
like, no, no.
Yeah.
But
It's
it's
the
in a way,
way.
like it's a little bit disrespectful to have this attitude, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Not that we should, I mean, I don't know too many people that welcome challenges and difficulties, but I think the reality is like, okay, I'm going to give in to what's happening.
Yes. Yes.
Let me question how this is helping.
That's like to me, you just define surrender, you know,
Surrender.
just to surrender, because that has been for me one of the greatest challenges, is just to allow, and know that everything that's coming is, for your greatest good. Everything is in the form of love, which I know we had said earlier, but it's as humans, we just want it a certain way. We want it much easier, faster. Like that's
Give me a pill.
right, right.
I don't want to do the work.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and like if we can surrender to the process, then we see, something is supposed to show up for a reason, and we can understand the why behind it, and so much more exponential growth comes from that place of discomfort. But it is exhausting. It can feel exhausting. And I love that you raise your girls like that, and I feel like, you've set them up to be able to be those curious learners as a result.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm reading this book, Let Them by Mel Robbins. I don't know if you've heard of
Oh
it.
yeah, 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 I've heard about it. Yeah,
Yeah, so I
yeah,
mean, this letting them, even when my own children, people I love, you have to allow every human being to use their intellect and free will
yeah,
because everyone is on their own journey.
right.
Like even your kids, when they're old enough, you have to let them live their life to make their choices because they're God's child too.
Yeah,
I don't have to go and save my kids. I've taught them. But at 19, for instance, they have to go through their own journey. Like I went through mine and you went through yours. So you have to let everyone choose and not, don't get off your lane and enter their lane
yeah,
and get upset or that, try to make choices for them. Even in marriage and friendships and relationships, we have to allow people to be who they are, even if we don't agree, even if, it's a challenge for us, we have to allow their free will because that is also part of loving
Right.
someone.
And that's how they
Look at the
grow.
world. Look at the
Yeah.
world. The
Yeah.
whole world is all because I want to control you. I want to tell
Right.
you what to do.
Right.
It's like, no, let's all just allow each person and take the responsibility ourselves,
Yeah.
respect someone that doesn't agree with us, isn't
Right.
going to do what we want them to do.
Right.
God doesn't control us. He's given us intellect and free will to choose for ourselves. So who are
Right.
we? Think we're better than God, that I'm going to
Right.
tell you what to do and manipulate you to do what I want you to do? Phew,
That was
the
so well
ego,
said. That
the
was,
ego that we think
yeah.
we're better than
Yeah.
God.
There's
God's
the
like, okay,
ego.
I'm going to give
Yeah.
you a brain and let's see what you do with it. This is your path. But when it comes to human beings, we're like, no, I'm going to tell you what to do. This is what you have to do. I'm going to manipulate you to do what I want
Right.
you. And this is not spiritual. This is ego, 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 destruction, or the opposite of peace.
Yeah. That's how we got to where we
What's
got
going
to.
on right now, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was so beautifully said. I feel like that's such like an important nugget for people to take away, especially with kids, because I think like we want so badly for them to like not experience pain and not, go through all of this difficulty. And what you said is it's so true because that's how they grow, that they've manifested it on purpose. And I realize like when I see myself wanting to control what my kids are going through. And I have to I have to remind myself, this is what their soul is like choosing to experience. I have to let it. And then it always comes back to, I realize I'm doing that for me. Like it's me, like it, and like it, so it kind of comes full circle to like how we started this whole conversation, like the control of all people in the outer world. Like we're doing it. It's about ourselves again.
Yes, exactly. But the bottom line is we can have unity if we're not controlling other people. It's hard to
That's the whole
be
thing. That's
able
the secret to unity. Yeah.
to is that
Yes.
we have to understand that everyone has to come to the table on their own with their own
Yes.
volition, their own awareness, understanding, and we're not here to control or manipulate anyone, but just to love them, love
Yes.
everyone where they're at.
Yes.
And
It's so
Baha'u'llah says
beautiful.
so powerful is that light of unity that it
Oh,
can illuminate the whole earth. That unity is, respect and love and oneness. And
yes.
and we realize that oneness, that there's only one God. God's created us.
Yes.
Of course, there's oneness and unity. So who are we again to be a cause of discord and disunity? God has created everything out of love and unity, and we're like, no, I
Do
don't think so.
it another way. Or
Things the way I'm gonna, pick and choose,
yeah. But
who
that was so
belongs at the
beautifully said.
table. Yeah,
I always end this on because we're right on time and I don't want to hold you, but like I always say, what would you, kind of envision the new earth to be? But like you just said it, like it's already like it's exactly that. And like I always say something like it's a puzzle, right? Like we don't all just have, one of us the answers. Like there's no person that has like all the answers. We all have a little piece of the puzzle, and it's kind of like the garden metaphor that you had said. Like we're not supposed to all be the same shape, we're supposed to be different shapes. And that's what makes us beautiful. And it's so true. If we can just come to the table and snap our pieces in, we create that light that you're talking about.
exactly. And it's very powerful. If
Yeah.
we only knew how powerful that light and
Yes.
that love that comes out of unity can heal the world. Yeah, but human beings, like, we have to get out of the way.
Yeah,
The
that's it.
the ego needs to get out of the way.
Yeah, that's it. Well, thank you so, so much. You, as always, are wise and beautiful inside and out. And I wish I could hug you.
Yeah. Virtual hug. Thank you for having
Yes.
me on. I love
Oh,
you. I love
thank
what you're
you. I love you
doing.
too.
Just this is the kind of stuff that fuels me, that gives me like spiritual sustenance, and I live for it.
Oh, same.
Because the frequency is there, going back to the power of the frequency. So
Yes.
it
Yes. When
lifts
you
me
speak,
up.
I
It's
get
my
chills.
buoy. It's my buoy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I love you, my friends.
Love
Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much.